Black and white scraps are not my favorite thing, but they can make a very dynamic quilt. Just see what I do. Hello, YouTube followers and subscribers and persons who love to quilt scrappy fabrics. Here I have a bunch of leftover black and white pieces of fabric. Some of them are strips already. Some of them are just a square or a rectangle that I could cut into strips or make into blocks. But what I've been doing is I have been making a sort of random log cabin. I start in the middle with a square, add another square, add a strip, add a strip, add a strip, add a strip, and then I just keep going until I get a bigger square. And when I get it to a 12.5-inch size, I stop. In between the rows, I like to give them a bit of a press and sort of square off the block as is so that the next one isn't really too wonky. I like to see this one in rather straight stitched lines rather than angles. When I have made it up to at least a 12.5-inch square, then I have to decide what to do next. It is not my favorite thing. So when I have a whole wall of these blocks, made, I can put them together either in a quilt as you go style with I might put a red sashing in between there. That would be nice. And that would be my typical thing to do with these black and white squares. And maybe I would put something on the back side and also have a reversible block. So I thought, okay, maybe I will put something on the back side that's a little more entertaining. So I salvaged through some of my bins and I found all sorts of colorful strips that I think would be nice on the back side. So making things with strips, I could also make a log cabin style, but I chose to cut strips and just use my 12.5-inch square. In order to make my new blocks of color, I am going to use my 12.5-inch square. And you can see along the diagonal is a line, which indicates the halfway point. So I'm going to just start with a rather wide strip and make sure that it covers both of the points at both ends. I'm wanting to make it a wide strip because I am going to cut along that row and join them up somehow to the black and white ones. But the next thing I usually do, I have the beginner strip, the starter strip, and then I just sort of lay on top of the ruler other strips that I have here, both sides, until I fill up the ruler. And you see, I just give myself some seam allowance under there. So it's going to work for me. And when I get enough pieces to go to the end of the ruler, then I start to sew them together. So that's my process. I always make sure there's just some extra fabric at the end, so when I'm done, I have enough to make it a coverage. So I'll just sew this block together and square it up and show you what I'm doing next. And make big blocks like that on a diagonal. That was very fast and easy, and I made sure to have the center a little wider than the other strips. So I picked out all the widest ones so I could use those down the center. Ho-hum. Then, when I was looking at the two sets of blocks side by side, I thought, oh, that black and white set looks so dull compared with the nice bright orange, yellow, pink, red, purple, which I love bright colors. And how can I make them go together on the front? I knew if I changed the plan, it wouldn't be quilt as you go anymore. Putting a quilt together with the front, and then I would have a backing, and it would be quilted in one piece. So I think that's what my option is going to be. I am going to mix these two together. And voila, I decided to cut them diagonally and sew them together again. Now that, in my opinion, is going to be more dynamic, and I like the way that is going. So all I have to do now is keep sewing and make some more squares. Here I have finished almost all of the blocks, and I really like the way it looks now. I think this is going to be a very good quilt. I have a lovely orange backing for it, but I think I want to make it more of a bed quilt. So here I have just added a strip of pink fabric on two sides, and I made another row of those log cabin black and white blocks and cut them in half, put them on either end. So that gives me an 80-inch length. It's actually 82-inch length, and that is enough for a twin bed size. And this quilt will be donated to one of the youth hostels in our city, and somebody is going to really like it. Now all I have to do is put a backing and batting, quilt it up, and bind it. It's just that easy to use up the things that you've got and make something that's very serviceable and, I think, quite nice to look at. Somebody will love this quilt. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have fun with your scraps and use up the things that you've got. Thanks for watching to the end, and if you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing and give me a thumbs up if you liked this video. Thank you, and see you next time.